You know, right before I saw you just now, I was watching a video of something that was so beautiful. It looked like there was water and there were rocks, and there were some sticks and trees and a lot of sunshine on the water too. And it was really beautiful. And it wasn't a swimming pool because I've been to the swimming pool and it looks different than that. Um, and it was moving. The water was like moving, 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 even though I didn't see anybody like moving it or pushing it. Um, have you seen that? Did you see that?
Yes, I have, Miss Sarah. And you're right, it wasn't a swimming pool. It was actually a river. And I wanted to show you and our friends a video of our trip to a river, to the River Potomac. And we went there with my family a couple of weeks ago. And we had such a nice time because we were able to watch some animals that use the water to catch food, and we were
Hmm.
able to ride a boat,
Wow.
and yes, and we were able to fish, which was a lot of fun, even though we did not catch any fish.
Lucky for the fish.
Yes. But it was just very peaceful and relaxing, even just to watch the water and watch the river flow. So I wanted to share it with you all.
That's so nice. Well, thanks for sharing. Uh, when I was watched the video, I also heard a beautiful sound of the water moving. Do you think we could listen to that again?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, great.
Listening to the water reminds me of actually a book that I think our friends would like to listen to. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, I would love to hear it.
So, Miss Sarah, this is the book I wanted to read to you, and this way you and all our friends get to hear it. It's called The River by Mark Martin. Do you see how the title, A River, is written in river letters? I think that's very neat. So this is a girl in her bedroom, and from her window she can see a river, and she will be telling us a story about it. There is a river outside my window. From where I sit, I can see it stretching into the distance in both directions. Sometimes I imagine myself floating along the river, swept away in a silver boat toward the horizon. Where will it take me? What do you think? It goes through the city, under bridges, and past the speeding cars that zoom by in an endless stream of business. It's a very busy city. It flows beside the factories with their machines grinding and plumes of smoke rising into the sky. It carries me past the farms and animals and moves behind the fields that look like giant patchwork quilts. It slides into the hills and valleys, and I can hear the murmuring of running water. that grows louder, and it takes me tumbling down a waterfall taller than any building. The river flows into the jungle, and I can hear lots of animals, gibbons, bats, and all kinds of birds. Deep in the jungle, it's very dark. I can feel many eyes watching me. Do you see the eyes? As I sail through the mangroves, the river opens up and takes me to the ocean. Looks like the river gets wider here. It's windier now, and the air smells of salt and seaweed. If I peer over the edge of my boat, I can see many fish swimming in and out of the light. It's nice to see the sun rays here. When I look up, I see clouds moving, and it begins to rain. And it's difficult to see where I am, but I can hear raindrops on a window, and as the clouds clear, I'm sitting in my room again, looking through those raindrops on the glass and gazing out across the sleeping city. And I think I see my silver boat floating in the moonlight, drifting past my windows once more. The end.
Thanks, Ms. Martina. I really like that story about rivers. It was so interesting how the rivers went through the city and the mountains and the jungles. And there were so many animals. There were so many animals that lived in the rivers too. Like, I think there were some different birds, and I think there were some frogs and some... Oh, hi, Tess! I haven't seen you in so long. You guys, this is my turtle friend, Tess. Tess, we're kind of far from the river. What are you doing here? Huh? Really? Oh my goodness. Tess says that she and her turtle babies were wandering. They wanted to see how far the river would go, and she ended up getting lost. And she went up, 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 and came up to my street and at my house. Tess, oh my. I can imagine. Tess says that she and her turtle babies are very hot and very, very dry. And I know about turtles. They need to stay wet and cool. I wonder if we can help her out. Tess, I don't have a river here, but I do have water. I wonder if we can find a way to make a river in my backyard at my house for Tess and her babies. Oh, you're very excited. Okay, let's give it a try. All right, come on everybody. Hi Sammy, hi Daniel.
Hi.
Sammy and Daniel are going to help us build a river for Tess. She's right here. And her little turtle babies. They're getting very hot and very dry, and they need a river to cool off in. So we have some supplies, some buckets and tinfoil and rocks and nets and shells. And so far, they've used our tinfoil and rocks and folded it up to make a nice river.
We should like put water on and like make it like as it's a real river. Yeah.
That's a great idea. You want to get started?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's do high right here.
Is the water staying in the river?
Yeah,
Yeah?
a little bit.
What did you do to make it stay in the river and not go out
So
into the grass?
we like folded it up and like see how Sammy's pushing it down
Mm-hmm.
so like the water can go up and all over.
I see. So you folded, can you show us in here, Sammy, how you fold the sides up?
Yep, you do like that.
Oh, so that's like the river bank.
And also,
And is the water staying in?
yeah.
Uh-oh.
What? Well, they're floating, but they're not moving.
Right. Rivers are all usually moving water, right?
Yeah.
But they can float down.
I know.
So I think they look nice and cooled off, but they're not floating down the river like they like
we
to.
might have to put some more water in.
I don't know. I think that we have to make it so that it goes down. If we put more water in it, then it'll just still stay there. Maybe we're supposed to like tilt it.
Oh. Do you think you could change the height of your river? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe
Yeah.
no, like this.
Oh. Look, the water was flowing. Oh, look, they're moving. They're flowing. The rocks are flowing too. Ooh, there they go.
Put it there. Let's say if this is a race, racing, whoever goes the farthest
Are
wins.
they going to race down the river?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a fun idea.
Okay.
I can tell they're already wet and cooled off.
So no race.
So they're happy, and I think Tess is happy too. She likes when her babies are happy. Oh, whoop, there goes one.
I think we need more water to get the rest of
Yeah,
them.
we do. With
Oh, here
this.
comes a big bucket.
Dude,
Ooh, another went down.
Whoa!
went down.
That looked like fun.
I think that this one won.
Let's see. Are you nice and cooled off, little turtle baby?
yeah, I think they are.
Yay.
He says yes.
Oh, good.
So we're gonna try with this hose to make it. We have frogs, ducks, and the same turtles.
Okay,
We're gonna
how do you want to turn
race.
it on? Should I turn it on?
Can you turn it on, Sammy?
Yeah.
Go.
Just give him a little push.
Is it up there?
Oh, will the duck make it all the way to the end?
Let's see.
Look at the duckies.
Duckies are doing the best today.
They are.
We're back here with a river. We have only ducks, but a lot of ducks this time. We're gonna see who gets the farthest and wins. Sammy, please turn on the water.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. We need to
Just give some of them a little push.
Oh, we got some duckies floating upside down and backwards, but they look like they're having fun. Whee!
Oh, winner, please don't turn off the hose. Our little squeaky ducky toy has won the race. So let's give a cheer for Ducky. Yay!
Yay!
So even kids looking at wash in the river like I am. Ah. The river is always cold.
So I have some of this dirt, and I'm gonna make the water a little bit dirty because that's how rivers are usually. So I'm gonna try it.
And then I am gonna like spray water so it can go all over the place.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Move out of the way. Ready?
Daniel and Sammy, did you guys have fun building a river?
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
I did.
If you guys want to make it, you can just watch this video again and pause it on the way and make this river that we made.
It's really fun. You guys should try it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tess and her little turtle babies had so much fun. There's a little turtle baby. They had so much fun with Daniel and Sammy in the river. And now Tess told me she feels much cooler. She's very cooled off and she's nice and wet. That's how the turtles like.
We're glad you're feeling better, Tess.
Yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better too, you and your babies, before you head back to your real river.
I bet you were hot before.
And you know, turtles don't like to be hot. They like to stay nice and cool and wet in their river home. So when they were floating down the river, when the baby turtles were floating down the river, it reminded me of a Curious George story where he makes something else float. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So the book is called Curious George Rides a Bike. But don't worry, he doesn't try to make his bike float.
Okay.
I don't know if that would work very well. Do you? I don't think you should take their bikes in the water.
Probably float because it's big, but you know.
You know, I don't see many people riding bikes in the water.
That would be silly.
It would be silly. All right, I'll tell you the story now. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Here you go, Tess. I'll move you so you can see too. This morning, George was curious the moment he woke up because he knew it was a special day. At breakfast, George's friend said, "Today we are going to celebrate because just 3 years ago this day, I brought you home with me from the jungle. So tonight I'll take you to the animal show. But first I have a surprise for you." He took George out to the yard where a big box was standing. George was very curious. That is a big.
I bet he wants to know what's in the box.
I bet he does. He was curious. Are you curious too? Oh.
Not really.
Out of the box came a bicycle. George was delighted. That's what he had always wanted. He knew how to ride a bicycle, but he had never had one of his own. "I must go now," said the man, "but I'll be back in time for the show. Be careful with your new bike and keep close to the house while I am gone." George could ride very well. He could even do all sorts of tricks. Monkeys are good at that. For instance, he could ride this way with both hands off the handlebar. He could ride this way like a cowboy on a wild bronco.
Oh, wow.
And he could ride backwards. But after a while, George got tired of doing tricks and went out into the street. The newsboy was just passing by with his bag full of newspapers. "It's a fine bike you have there," he said to George. "How would you like to help me deliver the papers?" He handed George the bag and told him to do one side of the street first and then turn back and do the other side. George was very proud as he rode off on his bike. He started to deliver the papers on one side of the street as he had been told. When he came to the last house, he saw a little river in the distance. George was curious. He wanted to know what the river was like, so instead of turning back to deliver the rest of the papers, he just went on. Off he goes to the river.
I wonder what he's gonna do.
Let's see. Oh, what a nice looking river. There's ducks and there's a fisherman and there are boys playing. Let's see. There was a lot to see at the river. A man was fishing from the bridge, a duck family was paddling downstream, and 2 boys were playing with their boats. George would have liked to stop and look at the boats, but he was afraid the boys might find out that he had not delivered the papers, so he rode on.
That looks just like your river, Miss Sarah.
It does, doesn't it? It's very blue. While riding along, George kept thinking of boats all the time. It would be such fun to have a boat, he thought. But how could he get one? He thought and thought and thought. And then, let me get this up nice and close. He's really thinking about having a boat. And then he had an idea. He got off of his bicycle, took a newspaper out of the bag, and began to fold it. First, he folded down the corners like this. And look, the fish and the birds are watching him. Those are other animals that live in the river. Then he did all of these different folds, all of these directions, and ended up with his very own boat. And now the moment came to launch the boat. Would it float? What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think yes? It did. It did float. So George decided to make some more boats. Finally, he had used up all the papers and he had made so many boats that he could not even count them. A whole fleet of boats. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Some of the duckies are in them.
I know. I think that's so silly. I love that picture. Look, these are some little bugs, and there's even a butterfly and a grasshopper and a caterpillar and some ants. They're all enjoying George's newspaper boats.
That's a lot of fun.
Fun? That would reminded me that other things float in the river too, not just the turtles. So,
It would be fun to make our own.
do you want to try to make your own?
Yeah.
Oh.
Should we try it?
Yeah? Okay. You know what? How about I'll turn back. Do you have some paper you can use?
Yes.
Yes.
We have some paper bags
Yeah,
that we use to make our boats.
that's a great thing.
Show you.
Okay. How about I'll show you the instructions again and you can fold them.
Yes, that would help me, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay. And first you fold it in half all the way like George did. Oh yeah, like Emma has right there.
Just like this.
Yes. And then
And
you have to
then
do those triangle folds.
Oh, I think we
The
need to turn it
tops.
this way. And we can help ourselves by folding in half a
Mhm.
little bit. So we know where the middle is, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
and now let's open it. So at this line we should fold the triangle all the way to it. Like
That's right.
this.
Just make a nice line here.
And now the same with the other side.
Very good.
That looks just like what George has right here.
Yes?
Yeah.
What's our next step, Miss Sarah?
Now you fold these edges up.
Bottom.
The
Mhm.
bottom, you fold
Up
up.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Flip it
now
over.
let's turn it around and put it and do the same with the other part too.
You got it. And now Tess is going to move over here. Now, can you see what to do next? You have to pull the two pointy parts together at the bottom.
Let's try this. I think we do this. We can kind of help ourselves with the hand. Push. Lay it back down.
Just
Yes.
like this.
That's right.
That looks just like this one, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks like a diamond, right?
It does look like a diamond.
Let's put
Now you can,
these 2 pointy parts together.
mhm. So can you now fold that
And if we turn it,
point up to the top point?
so point it to this side.
And remember, just one part, not the two.
One part at a
Right.
time. That's right.
And then now you do the other side up to its point.
There you go, this way, just like before. And then this part to this part. There we go.
And you might need a grown-up to help you.
You might. Sometimes all these folds can be tricky. You might also have to try it a few times. Sometimes things like this aren't always easy on the first try. All right, now you're going to take those 2 points and pull them together again.
So I think we kind of do like we did before.
Yep,
Oops.
you got it.
There we
Just
go.
like this.
Just
And you
like
have
that.
another diamond.
Another diamond. And I think we need one more step.
One more
And
step, you have to
that is-
pull those tips apart.
Open it up.
Open it up.
Open it up.
And put a hand in.
Helps you.
And ta-da! Look at your boat.
Here's our boat.
Wow, that boat is ready to float.
Yeah, it looks just like the one in the picture.
It looks just like Curious George's boat.
Okay. Emma, I think you know what else we could do with the boat?
Decorate it.
Yep. Let's do that.
You could decorate it, and then you could take it to see if it floats.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. This was so fun. I'm really excited to find out whether the boat is going to float just like George's boats are floating.
I'm curious to see that too, just like Curious George.
Curious George.
Well, thanks for listening to the story.
Thank you for reading it to us.
Even though we didn't get to the ending.
We didn't get to the ending. Maybe next time we'll finish the story and see what Curious George does after he floats the boat. He goes on all kinds of adventures in this story on his new bike.
Okay. Should we take our boat floating?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye, Miss
Bye.
Sarah.
Bye.
So now that we have our boats done and decorated, we can test them and see how they can float in our creek. Can you hear the creek? It's loud, just like our river. Should we put them in? And see how they float? Oh! One of our acorns fell in the water. Okay. There we go. Whoops. Oh. That's okay, we can pull it out because we have our string on it. Let's try this other one. We can see that the creek flows in one direction just like a river. And that's the same direction that our boats are gonna flow. Right, Emma? Oh, perfect. We got a little water in the boat. And we are sure we can still keep our boat and pull it back if we need to.
It's just like walking a dog on a leash.
There it goes. Our boat is still floating. Where do you think the boat is gonna flow, Emma?
I think it's gonna flow to a big ocean.
You think so? Just like in the book?
Yeah.
I think so too. Miss Sarah and Tess, did you like watching our video about the boats, how they were floating on the creek?
Yes, I really liked it. I saw that you had so many boats, just like how Curious George had so many boats. That must
Yes.
be fun.
It was a lot of fun. We had a few boats and we even put strings on them so they wouldn't float away from us.
Well, that was
But
a good
the
idea.
water, but the water in the creek was quite slow, not like a big river. So they stayed close by and we could watch them move and we could watch the happy acorns float in them. And it was really nice. And we were thinking about how far they could float,
Well,
just like the book.
that's really fun. I'm glad you shared that with us. And Tess and her turtles had a really fun time floating in our backyard river. It's not the same as a real river, but we were able to figure out that when we made the river very flat, the water didn't move too much. But when we made it at an angle from high to low, the water moved much faster. And
That's
the
true.
turtles thought that floating very quickly in the water was very fun. Oh.
That's true. Our creek,
Oh.
that's telling you something?
Tess is telling me something. What? Oh, yes. Tess said that she thinks it's time for her and her babies to go back to her real river.
Oh, Tess, I'm so happy you get to return to your real river with your babies.
Mm-hmm. Do you know the way now? Do you remember? She told me she remembers the way. She said turtles always remember their way back. So
That's right.
interesting. All right. Well, goodbye, Tess.
Bye, Tess.
And there she goes. She's got to scoop up her babies and go. Well, thanks for learning about rivers with me.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We'll have to learn about something new again next time.
Let's do
Okay.
that.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Until then, bye.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul.
It's kind